And that 65 is part of the cost of delivering that event.
Right.
Someone's going to cover it one way or another.
Anything else? Seeing none, this will be listed on as a for introduction as an ordinance. Award the contract to Rosen Group of Summit for construction oversight for the Civic Center elevator.
Bob Vogel is here, and we can talk about it. The original contract with the Rosen Group was for $7,000 to supervise the construction project of the elevator and the renovation at the Civic Center. The project is running over because there's been a delay with the elevator manufacturer, which will cause the contract period to be extended. Because that period is extended, conversely, or correspondingly, the architect is requesting an extension of his fee to cover that extended construction period. What Bob has negotiated on behalf of the borough is in the contract, there's liquidated damages for the contractor. So these costs that we're going to be bearing and advancing, we envision that we would reserve from the final payment from the contractor and deduct it out of the final payment to reimburse the borough for these extra costs that is not our responsibility. But to ensure that the job is done properly, the engineer is recommending that we continue the oversight by the architect. And hopefully the elevator is getting delivered on February 28th to the distribution center in Boston, a week to deliver it to the site, 3 weeks to install it, 1 week for shakedown and state permits and inspections by the state, and that gets us to April 1st, and that's what this resolution is, to have the architectural services through that date.
Mr. Links?
Ray, just a quickie. Did you say we're going to withhold payment at the end for that portion that we feel we are owed? Is that?
Yes,
is that what you said? I just want to make sure I understood.
There's a per day penalty for them bringing the project in beyond schedule. That is in a contractual obligation.
Great.
So we're going to deduct it for that cost and any other costs that we incur because of the delay.
Yeah, that's fine. Great, thank you.
Can I make,
Mr.
you're saying we spent $7,000 to have somebody oversee that job?
Yes, I mean, it hasn't been fully dispersed, but yes, that was the original authorized amount, $7,000.
And, like, the finance guy just got up that we're running out of money, but yet, I don't understand why we can't have our own in-house, just keep an eye on things down there. Here that's where all our money goes, these consultants, we have to do something. And, there's $7,000 for, that's where the problem is. I think with too many consultants, too much overhead. We got to work on this overhead bit.
No, you're just too low. I thought you were trying to signal.
I had asked the question Mr. Links had asked Mr. Cody earlier, and it seems perfectly reasonable what we're doing.
I agree.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, seeing none, this will be listed on as a resolution on the consent agenda. Award the contract. Keep going, Bob. You're doing well. I had a few words tonight.
And Jim Burnett
Benoni
is also.
Associates. I think Jim Burnett's going to do a little presentation. Austria and I have seen this already. But
May I say something, Mayor?
certainly.
Yes, thank you. I asked Jim to bring this before us because individually we may have heard about changes that have been proposed for Lincoln Place, but we have not seen it as a council. And again, that goes back to, it's the council and the mayor that have to make these decisions as a group as opposed to individually. So
Right.
we should all be in the same place when we hear this stuff.
And I think that everybody on the council made an exception. Don, I don't think you were you part of?
I was at the DDC
Visioning?
meeting last year. I also have talked to Jim offline.
This,
I had a council
I wasn't at this
presentation.
year's.
we're part, I don't know if Jeannie was part. Bob, I think you were part of the visioning anyway for this. So.
Seeing me and for considering this project. A fair amount of people in downtown think it's important. Lincoln Place today is, thank you, Don. Lincoln Place today, as most people know, if you walk on the street, safety is compromised. The conditions are poor, especially compared to other downtown areas. Lincoln Place has many major destinations, including the post office, movie theater, train station, and important businesses. It's a gateway to our town and seen by thousands of commuters every day. It's funny, my in-laws were staying at the Madison Hotel and took the train into New York City from the Madison Hotel and saw Madison downtown and saw Waverly Place at night lit with all the lights, and they were so impressed. and then they saw Lincoln Place and they weren't so. And the question is this how we want to portray Madison to my in-laws and to everyone else who comes and visits? Other than, I mean, not Eric, Carl, and Mike, but the cracks in front of them, the cracks on the curbs, cars literally driving right down the middle of the street badly in need of repair. So we had the Project for Public Spaces study, and the PPS study and placemaking workshop accomplished really its main goal, which was getting the stakeholders on the same page. I've lived in this town my whole life, and if you asked one person their opinion, asked another person their opinion, everybody had slightly different variations as to what they thought should happen in the street. After the presentation after the study, a broad consensus was drawn among the stakeholders. The Project for Public Spaces study taught the stakeholders what makes a great space. They used time-lapse filming, they had stakeholder meetings, place-making workshop, an audit of the space. They generated recommendations and a final presentation. There's Bob Conley standing there talking. Goals as a result of the study, what was the end consensus was that we wanted to keep the street two-way. There was a group of people who were talking, should it go one way or not? And we realized that could really be a deal killer to the street, that we might be able to claim more parking, but in the end, having it go one way would cause significant traffic issues. Imagine if it went one way from the Giralda building down to Lincoln, from Prospect to Waverly, and you lived over in the Fairwood section, you'd have to circle all the way down, come around, and come back in. A second goal was to maximize parking within the confines of the plan. Third was to improve public safety. Fourth was to keep it simple. Project for Public Spaces came out with some ideas that we dismissed because we thought they were too grandiose. And finally, bring Lincoln Place up to the same standards as the rest of the town. The plan summary that we have, and I will give you a drawing of the plan as we have it. It'll be available on the website for anyone else who wants to see it later on. And it's a little small, I apologize, but we can talk about it in at length. Is to add a narrow sidewalk to the train station side of the street. Most of you know, especially if you have kids, it's a real challenge to park on that side of the street and to get out. With my daughter, we're opening up the door, looking both ways and darting across. No safe place to cross because there's no crosswalks. So we're adding narrow sidewalks to the south side, add mid-street crosswalks and small island for a postal drop box in the middle, create pedestrian bump outs to allow the pedestrians to get a little closer out into the street to see the traffic. To slow the traffic down, the island would eliminate that mid-block U-turn, which we all see. If you saw the time-lapse photography, it was like Wild West City with cars circulating and going every which way. We would install the brick paver sidewalks, Victorian lampposts, new tree wells, new trees and benches, so the street would look the same as all the other streets in town, in downtown. We would address much-needed infrastructure needs of the street, including stormwater management, replacement of gas, water, and sewer lines. And Bob can talk to you more about that. The document that you have, the original, was given to us by Project for Public Spaces is above. The one below, which is in black and white, is ours. And we can talk about the specific modifications, but what we did with the help of Jim Sanderson and good friend Craig Arizuma was we created some 3D models using Google SketchUp. So this is hopefully what the planning board's been asking for when they have other plans of other buildings. But as you can see here, we have the narrow sidewalk going down here, and I want to say a couple things. This is illustrative. Location and style of trees, lampposts, and other items are to be determined. Craig just grabbed a lamppost that he could find in the Google SketchUp inventory. This isn't the type of lamppost or the location there would be, but it gives you a sense of space. You see the bump outs occurring here. You see a designated crosswalk. You see a small, narrow sidewalk that continues down here.